Hey guys, so let's discuss solo leveling. Now, to start us off, we saw Madame Selner, and she glimpsed into JinWoo's future, and she said, "Are you planning on sacrificing one for everyone?" Well, we can assume that that one is JinWoo, and everyone is humanity. Then she said, "No one will remember you." So, what does this mean exactly? Well, we realized that whatever she saw had to be within her comprehension. We know that we saw another sovereign on Jeju Island completely put everyone to sleep, even these top rank hunters, and mind wipe them, and possibly they can input false memories as well. But that doesn't quite sound like what she's talking about here. So let's dig into this a little further. I was thinking it might have something to do with the whatever the recoil effect is on the Kamish runestone. So now we know what the dragon-like power was. It was Kamish's cry. That's cool. That messed them all up. But what was the drawback to that power? It seems like it was awesome. So we're gonna figure that out. JinWoo is about to grab, or well, he's already grabbing the Lord of Destruction, and he's about to pull him into his gate. I'm wondering if he's going to bring him into his own personal realm. Can he even do that? Can JinWoo bring the Lord of Destruction into his own dimension, his own Shadow Sovereign realm? Or is that just reserved for him, his soldiers, and like you have to have died to get there? So I'm thinking JinWoo, in order to beat the Sovereign of Destruction, somehow would have to sacrifice himself. Or get extremely close to sacrificing himself. But at the same time, I'm guessing he understands something, either about his own powers or about what the rulers are going to do. Because now that JinWoo became the Shadow Sovereign, I think even if they turned back time to a certain extent, JinWoo, you can't change the fact that he's the Shadow Sovereign. So everything would turn back except for JinWoo being JinWoo. Like history or the timeline would have to rewrite itself or something. And if JinWoo chooses to lose his existence as the Shadow Sovereign, then probably even the tools of the Absolute Being's might can't turn that back. Or maybe maybe he's not ready for that. Maybe he has a plan and he has to sacrifice himself, but then the rulers end up using the last bit of the strength of the tool of God's might to turn back time just enough for JinWoo to come back. But we'll see. But also, his soldiers didn't say it's impossible. They just said it's too dangerous. That shows that it's not 100% that JinWoo is gonna actually disappear or lose his life or something. So there's a small chance that he could beat the there's a small chance that he could beat the Lord of Destruction and still be able to stay alive and marry Chahain. Yeah, so like I said, maybe the ruler's tools, the one to reverse time, yeah, it ran out of enough energy, so to speak, but that was just to turn back time 10 years. There's no more 10-year time reversals. But it might still have enough energy to turn back time for a year, 2 years. Okay, so now I see the way this author works. Some of the quotes we've had have been very foretelling. Like, I was complaining about the fact that they only told us the location of 2 gates out of the 8 gates in the Magisphere. However, those 2 gates ended up being the only important ones. So if I knew that was the clue, I would have gone with it. But anyway, so now I'm looking for hints like that. And so check this out. This is a quote. "To the Sovereign of Destruction, the sight of a battlefield filled with sheer uncontrolled madness from all parties involved was pretty much the same thing as a marvelous gift from the heavens." And we had more quotes saying the sovereigns are born from darkness, etc. So they're telling us something here about the origins of the sovereigns for sure. And I think it just goes to verify our theory that we've made so far. A crazy battlefield equals a gift from heaven. Heaven could also be said as being the absolute being, who by consequence created the sovereigns when, and I'm sticking with the theory, that I've laid out where the absolute being created the other fragments of the most brilliant light, and in consequence, the sovereigns were made. The sovereigns came into existence from the darkness. We don't have any more details to further make that theory, but I've gotten into it in very deep detail already, so you can go back and look at my old videos to see that. Usually I speculate on that aspect of the show toward the end of the videos. So, okay, so we knew that JinWoo's Shadow Army could definitely take out a whole army of a sovereignless army. That was obvious, we knew that. And then we realized that the Dragon Lord, he might be a little stronger than the Shadow Sovereign, but his army versus the Shadow Army, it's obvious. They would win every single time, the Shadow Army. So we knew that he had to work together with the other sovereigns, one way or another. We didn't realize they were all coming out of the same gate, but actually we kind of did. We thought that they would all be together in the Canada gate, up in the higher dimension, beyond the gate, and try to lure JinWoo into that gate. See, now if the sovereigns had gone with that plan, it would have been better. They could have lured JinWoo to a spot where they know, and then once they kill him in there, they could come out and destroy everything. But they were so tempted by all the fresh stuff that they could go out and destroy that they went out and destroyed it, and they played right into JinWoo's hand. And JinWoo is a straight up genius. We knew he had to use guerrilla warfare, like that was pretty obvious. If I was him, if you were him, if we were in his position, we would use guerrilla warfare on those guys. But he had a plan within a plan. That was awesome. That was awesome. He attacked the east flank and just wrecked it. Absolutely kept wrecking until the Dragon Sovereign came over there with his army of destruction. Then he just kept wrecking. Like, you're here? Great, I'm still gonna keep wrecking, I don't care. And then that really got his attention. And then he just ran away to the western flank where they were already, his whole shadow army was already there, stuck inside Andre's shadow, Thomas Andre. And then I think they had already killed it. Yeah, when he got there, the sovereign who was there, the sovereign of the, no, it wasn't the Transfigurations, it was the sovereign of the monstrous humanoids. Yeah, there we go. He was already killed by Bellion and all of them. He got suckered into that trap, and that was just awesome. And finally Thomas Andre can get a little bit of revenge for these guys always wrecking him. And then JinWoo showed up. Everyone was just dead. Full shadow army, 200,000 plus. And then, but then the wizard dude, the Sovereign of Transfigurations, just instantly teleported the whole army right there. And they thought they had JinWoo surrounded. They're like, this is the end. You played all your cards. And then JinWoo ran away one more time, but they were ahead of him. And then it looked as if he couldn't escape fast enough. But that was exactly what he wanted. He wanted all of them right in front of him. And then he used the Kamish runestone. And this was great because we speculated it might help him weaken some of the dragons below ancient grade. We speculated, we're like, forget that, because then that wouldn't help him against the Sovereign of Berserk Dragons. So then we thought it might weaken any dragon type monster by like 30%, which would even the playing field. But no, it got everyone. It was legit. That was awesome. I was wondering what it could be, but I still don't understand what the drawback is. Maybe it just, like, I don't know, paralyzes him for a minute or so afterwards. It paralyzes all them in the moment you need it the most, but then maybe it comes back to haunt you and paralyzes you or something a couple minutes after that. So he only has, like, now that the King of Berserk Dragons is all messed up, JinWoo has like 5 minutes to finish him off, and then JinWoo takes the recoil effect. Something like that. Oh, and then we got a cool quote. The soldiers, the shadow soldiers, are so much stronger than when they were alive. That's legit. That's awesome. That's hard to comprehend because you would think that'd take a toll on his mana, but apparently it's more of like a natural process. When the Shadow Sovereign got control over the Abyss, he basically became like the absolute being of darkness. And that's what I'm saying, and that's kind of what verifies our other theories too. So 4 sovereigns are dead, and 4 remain. I think we just saw 2 sovereigns here on the battlefield. We saw the Sovereign of Transfiguration, the King of Monstrous Humanoids, and the King of Demon Spectres. I think 2 of those names belong to the same sovereign. So, and then we know about the White Flame, the Sovereign of the White Flame, which I think is that blonde guy. But we haven't seen where he's hiding on the battlefield yet. He's a wild card. Now, when JinWoo was fighting on the Eastern Front and his shadow army was nowhere to be seen, it literally said this of the Lord of Destruction. Anxiety akin to a veil of thick fog, clogging up one's visions, grabbed hold of the Dragon Emperor, and it couldn't readily make its next move. He's sweating. He's sweating. Man, and then he's like, oh, he's not fighting like a true sovereign. How dare he? He needs to come fight us all just head on. Major fantasy. These guys are doing everything they can. They made the 8 gates appear and only came out of 1. The other ones were just a fake. They came up with their most ingenious idea to beat JinWoo. And then he uses his brain a little bit more than them, and they get all like, you know, complainy. Fantasy. That's a major fantasy. JinWoo is gonna wreck them. And so now he's getting to the final stages of his plan. We kind of knew it was gonna go off without a hinge because Madame Selner said what she said to him, and he said, so I can at least get that far. So his plan up to that point is the risky part. And he's gonna get to a part where he's probably gonna end up dying, or he can have a small chance of survival. But when Madame Selner saw into his future, she only saw up to the point where he probably has to risk his life. She didn't see past that to see if he could survive it or not. So he knows he's gonna get up to the point where he can probably win if he risks his life 100%. Oh yeah, and I was speculating that to get the dragons to the ground, he would just, you know, make a gate teleport on top of a dragon, and he did that. That was sick. He just disappeared into a shadow after the dragon shot its beam, ended up on the dragon's head and just killed it. So he did what I was talking about, but he didn't release all his shadows because they were somewhere else. But I forgot, he has ruler's authority. That was such an awesome picture playing out in my mind when I was reading that. He just dragged all those dragons down to the ground, and all the dragonutes that was riding on them, just a ton of them died. That was nuts. That was awesome. Ruler's authority versus dragons. Word. Oh yes, and then we saw Sovereign of the Iron Body, which is the King of Monstrous Humanoids. So that's it for now. More or less just a summary, and yeah, it's really hard to predict his moves. I mean, it's not just me who can't predict JinWoo's moves. It's the Lord of Destruction too, sweating over here, sweating. So what's he gonna do? Where's he taking him? See, I don't know the full extent of JinWoo's powers, and they don't want us to know that either. So it may be something I can predict, but at the same time, it may be something totally in left field. Yeah, and it's the end game. They don't want us to be able to predict it, you know? That doesn't make it as fun. Well, we have predicted a lot of things so far, and there were other things we could have predicted that we kind of missed, but that's what makes it a good story. So where's JinWoo taking the Lord of Destruction? It would be cool if he could find a place where a sovereign couldn't use his powers. I was thinking maybe he's gonna take him to the Sea of Trees in Japan, but it just doesn't make sense. That spot's not any different than any other place except it has no cell phone reception. What if he takes the Lord of Destruction to the World Tree, where everyone grew on? And what if the World Tree or something is like a place where sovereigns can't use their powers? And that would include JinWoo too, unless he's a little bit special because he came from that tree. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. What if JinWoo just took him to like where the rulers are or something and just plopped him down in the midst of all the rulers? Oh, that would be nuts. That would be crazy. I just don't think he can do that though. That's a little bit. It has to be an even fight, and so far, the Lord of Dragons has done nothing but get dominated. We know he has an insane amount of power. We know he wants to hit JinWoo with some of that power. And so far he's just been like crying like a little girl because his plan was good, but it just wasn't as good as JinWoo. JinWoo had plans within plans. It was good. Well, it's a little hard to predict with the information we've gotten. So I think JinWoo might take him to the World Tree. I don't have a very good reason for that, but we saw things about the World Tree, but then it just cut us off when we were getting our information about it. So there's something hidden about that. And then I think JinWoo is gonna try to defeat him in a certain time limit, and then it may look like he's gonna do it, but then something happens, and then the Lord of Destruction beats JinWoo, leaves JinWoo for dead, comes back to the world and says, "Let's continue our destruction." And then the rulers come and revive JinWoo or something. And then by the time JinWoo gets revived and comes back to Earth, I think it's gonna be almost completely destroyed, and the sovereigns are gonna be like, "Oh, the rulers finally showed up. We were waiting for you." And JinWoo's gonna be like, "No, everything's destroyed." And JinWoo's gonna just fight them, but then somehow they're gonna be able to turn back time a little bit. And we're gonna get a lot of answers to the origins and stuff in that meantime. They're gonna turn back time, and we're gonna try it one more time, but I don't know what's gonna happen. I could be so far off, it's ridiculous. It's getting harder and harder to predict. But we're trying, and JinWoo's a beast, and we're enjoying watching him. He's still leveling up. So, what do you guys think is gonna happen? Let me know in the comments below, or don't. It's alright, you might never see this video. But I just feel like the Sovereign of the White Flames is gonna be a wild card. That smiling blonde Sovereign, where is he? There's something sketchy about that. He's somewhere. He's doing something. He's gonna try to be a wild card and mess up JinWoo's plan. But it would make some sense if JinWoo went to the World Tree and he's all, "This is the source of mana in the universe" or something, and they fought there. Okay guys, if you got a theory, let me hear it. Now, let's push forward and see the one-on-one fight between JinWoo and the Lord of Destruction. Let's see what the final part of JinWoo's plan is. Later.